So when designing my line tracking robot, I went through a couple issues with the physical design of it. I went with a three-wheeled setup, the front wheel able to turn on any axis because it has small rubber bearings sort of going around the wheel so it can turn on its x-axis. This was a nice design just to pivot with. The problem with it was I had the line tracking sensors off the front of the robot, which ended up being too far away from the pivot. It would struggle at the 90-degree turns. Following the line, it would lose it. So I relocated the sensors to the middle portion of the robot. This was tricky. I wasn't prepared for it, but it ended up working out in the end once I got the sensors low enough to the table. I mounted the PLC on the top of the robot just for easy display purposes. I used that for troubleshooting by displaying the values of each sensor. I also use that to count my line sensors or count the crosses in the line and display that. For the first part of my code, my main loop was pretty simple. All it is a extended if statement. I start off turning right under certain conditions, turn left under the opposite conditions, and go forward if all my sensors are happy. If else, just stop. Or if else, actually go in reverse, not quite stop. This was so if the robot completely lost the line, it would reverse until it hits the line again, giving it a little bit extra logic. For the second line of code, the second part of code, it's really similar. I had to incorporate the LCD, and that's why there is so much more before the first void setup. In the void setup, we also put an interval under X just to count every time we go over the cross, so the robot will logically know when to stop. Through our setup, really all we're doing is setting up our LCD display, make sure it's saying ACC Mechatronics. It's very simple. Through our main loop, I would decide to start it off with a while loop and nest an if loop, or an if statement, sorry, in the while loop. So our while loop, we throw all of our sensors and our serial displays under that while loop. Come to find out they don't work if you don't put them under that while loop. If you put it before the while loop in the void loop, it still doesn't work. In that if statement, it's very similar to the first part of code. Changed it around just a little bit and changed the values because I had to change the sensor's location. Right here, we're starting off going forward. If it can't go forward, it goes to the left. Can't go left, it goes to the right if it's under the right conditions. Can't go right, it has to go backwards. And notice that we're adding to X every time all the sensors are over the line. That means we're crossing it. I put a large delay on that just so we had enough time to pass the cross without counting more than once. And I also have the motors writing to go forwards at this point, just so we don't lose track of our line while we're delayed. If nothing in there is true, our while loop, if our while loop actually isn't true, sorry, if X is greater than 4, then at the very end there, we just have our motors writing to stop.
No, I don't. I just don't do anything. I kind of like go through 5 years. And then in December I'll graduate from UNC with a science fiction student. well, kind of tracking time on graduate, but part of it is, or deciding if I want to go further after the semester, is I do want to be in a field that blends with in mechanical engineering and computer science. That's kind of what this is, right?
Have you had that before yet?
No.
Okay, and that comes through, you will be taking, that comes through, inter-option cost, and part of the option is at night. Take my first because what it comes to me like there's a system to go and probably don't need to do that using the CSV, so then the CSV is on the automated process